team, and I'll let you guys go ahead and take over.
Okay. So hi, this is Sudhakar from Bahmni team from Bangalore, India. So myself and Bharat are here from our team just to give an overview of what are the things that we are working on recently and also the things that we are planning to work. We have, I think, a pretty exhaustive list. I'll go briefly and I'll show a small demo for every feature at a very high level. And yeah, you can ask questions, stop me if you have any doubts on that. And we are hoping that we'll get it all shown to you in the time that we have. So we'll start. So the first thing in the last demo that Vinay had shown, I think you should have seen the growth and the graphs that we built. I'm just sharing the screen. Hold on, I'm waiting just to start the screen share. Okay, so is everyone able to see the screen?
Yes, I can see it now.
Okay, awesome. So we have built graphs to show the information that is collected, the observations that is collected over time, so the doctors can have a better understanding of the progress or the state. Based on that, on an extension to that, what we did is we also built charts that will show the growth of the children based on the WHO standards. So what you see here is the profile or the information of the baby, which is just 15 days old. And what we see here is in this graph is the weight of the child along with the reference lines. So immediately a doctor will get an idea of whether the baby is underweight or overweight or it's okay or not based on the WHO standards. So this is one of the new things that we have built on the existing graphs that we had before.
What graphing tool are you using?
We are using D3 and C3.js, which is built upon D3.js. And yeah, and these all came for free, so filtering out and all that and zooming, and it is also iPad friendly. Yeah, so this automatically scales based upon the data. Say if you have multiple points, it will automatically show you the trend. Yeah, so this is one thing. And Bharat, should I give it over to you so that you can talk about the next feature if there are no questions?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, let's move on. So basically, the other very interesting feature that we are working on is about internationalization. Okay. For those of you, I just want to just give a very brief on what it is. So internationalization is about having the ability of our app to be, available in multiple languages, like let's say French, English, Spanish, and all of it. So, and we want to reuse the same code base and kind of support internationalization. As all of you know, OpenMRS admin also supports internationalization. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start off. So as you all know, ours is an Angular app. So the base Bahmni is based on AngularJS. So we have used what is called Angular Translate as a technology, which supports a lot of. So they support these kind of making the strings as properties files and ability to translate using a Angular filter.
Can you say what that library is again?
Sorry, what's it?
You said you're using a library or something. I didn't hear the name of it.
Yeah, it's Angular Click.
Okay. Angular Click.
It's a very famous translate. Let's write it here.
Maybe you should type. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's Angular a very standard library Angular database. And the recent version is Angular supports internationalization out of the box. But this is a improved library, and a lot of these this library is being used for subsequent versions of languages as well. So we have gone ahead with this now because it's a bit mature. So what we do now is a demo. What we have expect of demo, we have tried to create an app in French, but it's kind of a Google Translate one. So you should apologize if there are some mistakes that you notice. But just for the sake of demo, I think it should enough. So currently the locale is selected as English. So this locale dropdown is generally populated from allowed locale list of global properties that is common with OpenMRS. So let me change this to French now. So these are the French translations that are available. Let me log into the apps. So you see that the app is completely, in a different language. So it actually uses same code. Is all it. The locale will is patient attribute. So we've still not done anything for that. So it's as of now, these attributes are
Bharat, your voice is breaking.
coming down. Let's see. So
yeah, Bharat, your voice is breaking up a lot. I haven't really been able to understand for the past couple minutes. I'll join back in a minute if you pick up.
Okay, so I think till Bharat joined back, we'll wait for a minute and then.
Hello. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
I'm very sorry. I didn't realize that I got disconnected. So yeah. So can you see my screen now?
No.
Just a moment. Yeah, see it now.
It's loading.
Can you see it now? Okay. So why do you want to reiterate the fact that these labels are actually getting loaded from the JSON files, and depending on the locale chosen by the user, they will be selected, and the relevant labels are updated. So okay. So moving, please stop me if you can't hear me. So I will. Yeah. So there is one aspect that I want to mention here. That's to do with the forms in the. So what we have done is the concepts by default support various locales. So depending on the locale chosen by the user on the client side, we would set the locale of the user on OpenMRS record the concept API. So that is specific locale. So, do you have any other question?
You guys don't yet have an approach for internationalizing the metadata besides concepts, right? Things like the fact that it says registration desk in the top right corner.
Sorry, I have trouble hearing actually. I don't know if that's. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. I was wondering if you guys have looked at translating metadata yet, and if not, I should point to how. Well, there's a way that that's been done in the reference application that you should be able to leverage.
So what kind of metadata that is?
Things like locations and encounter types and things like that.
Okay, okay. Okay, so we can have a look at it, but as of now, as part of the basic MV, we just thought we will do the base Angular, but then next steps would be to go ahead and do the data.
Darius, what was the method? Do you know what that we settled on? What's the reference application using for localizing?
The idea is that there's an unknown message code that you would look up, which involves the class name and then the UUID of the item you want to look up. So basically, you would be able you could put the translated names as message properties, and then a few of the modules like the UI framework and REST web services are aware to look up of how to look up those translations.
Oh, cool. So when you ask for things for data through REST, you can get it localized?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
The display parameter.
Cool. So we will definitely have a look at it. Might be we'll see as part of the next stories when we want to do for patient attributes and all. We would definitely try that out. Cool. So do we have any other questions, or should we move on? So let's move on now. Let me log in back in English. So the next thing that we want to show is about the relationships type support. So basically, as part of the registration, whenever we do a patient registration, we want to store the relationship types. So basically, if a patient is related to a person, whether it's a doctor or whether it's any other person or a patient, so we have that kind of provision now with Bahmni. So I'll just take you through that. Hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Cool. When a user logs into the registration module and tries to create a patient, or he can select an existing patient, there is a relationship type section where he can say who this patient is related to. And as we all know, OpenMRS supports relationship types. So we pick the list of relationships that are available from OpenMRS relationship type table. So like, let's say if the user selects a doctor, all we want to do is try to search for a provider in the system and then associate that as a relationship till a specified date. And the relationship type can extend to whether it's a sibling or a parent. By default, this kind of, so basically there is a difference here. If a doctor is selected, it will be a provider to be searched upon. And if it is a sibling or a parent and you want to search it with a patient in OpenMRS, we would support that as well. And in future versions, we want to support person, associated person related to this particular patient. So that is also available. And we kind of map this particular thing as a global property, saying, doctor means search for provider and a sibling search for a patient. This kind of thing would be a global property setting. And based on that, it would actually pick up the right thing.
So presumably what you're saying, because you have doctor there, is that the person you enter, they're related to the person being registered through that relationship. So if you put parent,
correct,
you're naming the parent of the patient being registered, not saying who the patient being registered is a parent of.
Correct, that's true. So these relationships can be configured as per the use case. So in this case, what we are saying is the current patient's parent is this person. Okay, and as usual, the till doesn't make sense here, but we didn't want to do any jazzy logic here. So for now, it's like, we can end a relationship with a doctor because we've got some use cases where, a care provider is associated with a patient for a certain period of time. So, and then once that is done, we should be able to see it. So does it answer the question? Also,
I think Burke is suggesting that it may be, you may want to think about the user, like you may want to do some UI to see whether people actually interpret it correctly.
We found that people often interpret relationships ambiguously. So when doctor is going to be fairly obvious because presumably you're not registering doctors and naming their patients. So that one isn't confusing to people, but you may find that someone will enter the children and put the relationship parent. So trying to adjust your UI to make it clear that,
make it really explicit which side of the relationship you're
got it. That's a good feedback. Yeah, that's a good feedback. So we will take it up. So yeah, but then it actually supports both way, right? So if the parent is configured, it's as per the OpenMRS schema. it works the other way as well. So the child is also configured, and we use this kind of data to show on the patient dashboard, so that if there is any related patient, we link the patient to the other person basically.
Yeah. So if it, for example, if you had the name field and then it said is my, and then the relationship or something like that, it turning into some kind of sentence or making it so that it's clear that who's A and who's B. Anyway.
Cool.
Looks cool.
One other recommendation I have is that you might consider. So it's great actually that you sort of have the behavior change based on the doctor or one of the sort of, whether it's a provider relationship or a person relation or a patient relationship. I think that it probably would make sense to have those actually be separate sections in the UI. Like in the OpenMRS data model, they're all just called relationships, but really you'd want like one little box in the UI for like who are the other patients you're related to. Another one is who are your care providers or things like that.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, we can consider that as well, Darius. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, one quick thing I would just like to show you the patient information section. I don't know, I don't have something configured, but like if it's configured right, the relationship page actually appears upon the patient dashboard, so that it's pretty easy for the person who is doing it. So Sudhakar, you want to take up the next item?
Sure. Okay. So the next one that we would like to share. Sorry, before I just start the screen share. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the programs now. We have used the OpenMRS programs model as such, and we added some extra REST endpoints so that we can start using it. To create programs, we are going to use the OpenMRS program. Is everyone able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So creating programs, we don't want, since that this is not going to be an activity done every day, hopefully by doctors and others. So this will be like a one-time setup. We thought of not rebuilding the whole stuff. So we are using the same program creation that is present in OpenMRS, which actually is working very well for us. So we go and I think I don't want to show the demo of this. So we'll create the programs, and the moment the programs are created in our app, to access the programs, what we did is we created a separate module called programs. And if we open that programs, and any patient actually can be enrolled. Say, for example, I take some sample patient, and all the programs that we created with the OpenMRS screen will be available here. So say, for example, any patient can be enrolled. I'll pick, say, a TV program. And then the initial stage. So a small change with what we did is we relaxed some of the constraints that were present in the OpenMRS UI alone. Say, for example, I'll show them. So first, this is the initial state, which is more or less the same as what we have in OpenMRS. The moment we enroll, we'll have a neat timeline here to show the transitions that happened, and along with that dates. And this is also a component that is built with the D3.js, just to give an idea of the different states that happened to this patient over a period of time.
So
the details.
So when you show the initial state, is that constraining to states that are tagged as possible initial states?
No. So we did not use the initial and the terminal states, the constraints were not used. We just show all the states for now. So here, yeah, you're asking about these, right, and the workflow. And also, we assume that we always have only workflow for now to just keep the model simple to start with for the users. Now, that's why you don't see any information about the workflow here. We always assume only one workflow, and we show all the states that were created for that workflow. Okay. Fine. So here we see all the information about the different states along with the transitions and done by whom. This is the same concept or idea that OpenMRS UI is also having, and also you can remove the last states. These controls are the ones that can be used to change the states, and also you can select any state. Given that we are not constraining any state as terminal or initial states, any state can be selected and that program can be ended as saying that this is the final state. Okay, I'll show an example which has some more data. That way it is like more yeah. So you have here, there are a lot of programs that, okay, a patient can be enrolled to more than one program, and it will show a separate section for every program along with all its states. And this link will take us to the dashboard or the consultation of that program, and only the observation templates that are configured to be shown for the programs will be shown. That way, and when a patient comes to the hospital for a program specific visit, the doctor can come and see the appropriate template to start collecting the observations. Any questions so far?
So how are you linking the various programs to what types of observations? Is that data that
yes.
you're managing yourself?
Yes, it is configurable, and we are right now managing it with the JSON configurations that we have. So what is expected to be done is the program name is linked to the type of the observation concept set, and that way we'll find all the concept sets and then show them. We are managing that in the configuration files, that is Bahmni configuration. We are not relying on any of the OpenMRS components for that.
So can you move between, so at some level you have different program-specific patient dashboards. Can you switch between them from the dashboards?
Right. So I have not configured it here, but the idea is there will be multiple tabs, every tab for a specific program based upon the configuration, the JSON configurations that we have. So that, say for example, a patient is enrolled only in a TB program, the TB tab will show only the TB patients who are active now in that. So it's easy for the doctor to focus on the patients who are enrolled for specific programs. That is also
if you're looking at a patient's dashboard in the TB program, but that patient is also in the HIV program, can you quickly switch from one to the other?
So differentiating the dashboard based upon the program is not yet done. So we have focused only on the consultation part, but the dashboard will remain the same as of now. One idea or the approach that we are planning, or at least when this requirement, to handle this requirement for now, is to have separate tabs and configure those tabs.
Oh, but so the idea is that at some level you can have, so right now if you were to click the consultation button, that implies a sort of regular generic consultation, but for the programs app,
yes,
then you're sort of creating basically a visit note for a specific program.
Yes, Yes, so the URL itself is will decide. So for example, when it comes via the specific program application, then what you see here in consultation on the observations tab will be different.
Okay, I guess maybe you guys, perhaps you guys have done more analysis of this as at the level of top level navigation. That sounds like it might be a little confusing to me.
Okay. Yeah, so that's correct. I think at least when the idea was on the ground, if we explain the workflows and if the workflows are kept straightforward, I think it might not be confusing, but we are still actively listening to for the feedback as how it is going to get implemented and whether it will be confusing, like what suggesting, because more or less the screens looks the same, but from where you come, the data or what we are going to show is going to be different. I can understand. Yeah.
Yeah, because the dashboard that you want would also vary by care setting. So, what someone wants to see in a hospital versus what they want to see in an outpatient clinic is probably different as well.
Yes, correct. So yeah, that's also one thing that we will not have yet.
But I guess you could kind of treat those as you could say that, I want, ultimately, if you were using a system and saying, I want to see the inpatient view, or I want to see the generic, general view, or I want to see the outpatient view, or I want to see the malaria view, the malaria program view. Those you could make dashboards that would allow the provider to choose their context in which to view and work with the patient.
True, but that's still not an ideal solution because he has to switch manually after going to dashboard.
Yeah.
Right, because it does not remember the context of which program that they are working on now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it will work with some manual step.
Yeah, just to add on to what Sudhakar was saying, right? I'm sure people on the call would know, but then the plus button there will allow us to configure multiple dashboards. They allow us to configure all of these kind of controls that you see on the screen, right? Like the widgets that you see on the screen, like diagnosis, treatment, and programs. So they can be very specific to a dashboard. So as Burke was suggesting, we can as well configure it manually at an implementation site using the JSON. And they should be able to configure their own dashboards and take printouts of it.
Yep.
So I like the use of, did you say it was C3 for the timelines of the programs? Can you make one of these people change one of their statuses and just show us what it looks like?
Sure. I'll pick, because it is based on the date, right? So because it is 2nd September, either I can go retroactively or I'll pick up patient who we have already tested with, so there'll be a lot of data for him.
So we kind of restricted the user to actually change the dates and move here and there. So it's when he enrolls it, that's when actually the date is the current date, and then when he changes the state, that is when we got the current date. So that way we have restricted the user as of now as part of the first version of these programs. We want to see how it goes over a period and then accordingly do some changes.
This is not a very here. So you will have this, the 2nd trimester, 3rd trimester transition happened with dates, and depending upon the duration, this widget will automatically scale. So it will assume this, and then it will automatically scale relatively based upon in which state the patient has stayed longer proportionately. Yeah, ignore the data because it's all like we are testing and they don't look logically correct. Okay. So, Bharat, you wanted to take the next one, or you want me to also touch briefly about PACS if there are no questions?
Go ahead, Sudhakar.
Okay. Before I go to the next topic, is there anything else that you would like to know?
So one of the things that we're planning on doing in OpenMRS under the hood is to start introducing ways to relate programs with various concepts, forms, behaviors, and so relating programs with other metadata, and I think that when it comes will help you rather than having to create your own ways of relating those things, to be able to ask OpenMRS, okay, given this program, what are the possible forms I should be using, or what are the or given this diagnosis, which programs should I be suggesting?
Yeah, that'll be good, because now the implementer has to go to multiple places to configure it. As I said, to create programs, he has to come to OpenMRS, and for other things, he has to go to config. Actually, that will help.
Yeah.
Yeah, but one other point is about, we had a use case of, associating a program, like the consultation that you're seeing from the program, it actually has its own encounter type. Yeah. So we want to map a program to an encounter type. That is again a kind of metadata kind of mapping. So there we're using a kind of custom solution where, we map a program to encounter type. So I think if that thing comes up, it will be really good.
Yeah. So it's the goal is to not only allow those to be related for the sake of being able to navigate and tie behaviors together, but also to make it easier to identify and package functionality. So to say, for your HIV program, what are the concepts, forms, reports, encounter types, et cetera, that are part of that vertical solution, so that sharing that information with others, and say, even just saying, okay, we want someone to maintain our HIV treatment program, making it clear here are all the bits and pieces in the system that relate to that. That's part of the goal as well.
Okay.
So do we have the plan as part of the roadmap? When are we?
Well, our first step toward it is with metadata mapping. So that's that metadata mapping was created kind of as a initial project in that to get us that direction. So that's because we need to be able to abstract, just like we do with concepts. We need to be modules or functionality needs to be able to name different metadata, and so that was our that's our first step down that road.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. That is with PACS. So the PACS integration is more or less like a work in progress still. We have, I'll just share a very brief overview of PACS first, and then I'll explain what actually we are able to do till now and what is that we are planning to do. This image looks
so
like complicated.
Just for folks on the call that might not know, PACS is a radiology system.
Yes. Okay. So to briefly explain that, so what we are trying to achieve here is, like Bahmni has integration with Bahmni has integration with the lab systems and all, but we never had any point of getting the data from the radiology, X-ray machines and other hardware. As an attempt to get the data automatic, the scanned images or the X-rays to the system for the doctors to view, refer easily, we started to integrate with those modality machines. So a very high level, what we started doing is, we started to have a DICOM server. DCM4C has been is what we are actually planning to use. And we also tried Tank server before, and then we decided on using DCM4J. This will host all the DICOM images that will be sent by the modalities. And BahmniMRS will read the information, all those images from DICOM server on need basis, and then show it using OVM too. That's another app that we are integrating into our web application. So we basically have two new integration systems. One is the OVM2 web app, which is to view the DICOM images, and the DCM4J, which is like a repository of all the images that we are collecting from the modalities. Right now, where we are able to successfully demo or integrate the OVM2. We are able to run the spikes and see that yes, it indeed shows the DICOM images with multiple levels of filtering and zooming and all that. Unfortunately, I don't have a system that is running with OVM2 to show you a demo. Eventually, once we are closer to get it implemented and complete, I'm sure we'll be able to show it. And DICOM we are successfully able to integrate DICOM also, where it will host all the images that comes from modality. There are different versions of modalities, and we are able to integrate to the modalities by a common standard protocol called HL7, and we are able to test only with one of the actual missions with HL7 in one of the implementations, but so we are not sure about the compatibility with all the possible modalities, given that there are different types and different manufacturing make of modalities. Any questions so far?
So you're sending an HL7 order to the PAX system?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, so we'll send an HL7 ORM001 type message to the PAX system, and we'll configure, to the modality system, and the modality is configured. We need to make some configurations so that whenever a new DICOM image is taken, it will automatically send that to the DICOM server, that is the DCM4J, along with patient metadata, so that Bahmni system can go and check the DICOM server asking, by the way, is this image ready for this patient on need basis, and if it is present, it will read that DICOM image and will use the OVM web app to show the image.
So is your PAX system, is that kind enough to carry through an order ID through like a order number through to the results?
Yes, that is how we are able to connect back the order with the results.
And are you storing these as within OpenMRS? Are you using complex odds, or how are they stored in OpenMRS?
So it's the order ID is part of the order data, and we just are trying to pass the same order ID across the machines, so that there is no other mapping that we need to worry about to remember.
Are you sending order ID, or are you sending order number?
I think we have, as far as I remember, we are using order ID. Bharat, okay. You are aware of this because we are actually kind of
just
working on this.
I mean, you can probably make it work with order ID, just so you know the order number. That's the purpose of it, is to be the placer number for HL7. So
okay,
that's why it exists.
I need to check on that, but sorry, maybe I can update you back on what actually we are using.
The and then when you get a result, is that triggering? So once an image, a radiology image, and presumably any interpretation of it is created and DCM4J gets that, does it send a notification to OpenMRS to say, hey, I've got a new result for this patient?
Yeah, so the image actually says that poll for new results, but we are right now, as an initial cut, as a first release, we plan not to do that. Instead, when the doctor opens the patient dashboard, say, or a widget, it will poll at that time to find out whether if there is any image. That it looks like that looked as a simple initial cut to get the end whole thing connected, and then the idea is to eventually poll for the results so that we preemptively show, instead of the doctor or someone inquiring it whether the results are there.
Okay, so currently you're getting them when someone asks for them.
Yeah. So we build the URL dynamically based upon patient information and order ID, and then we ask DCM4J, and it will respond saying that whether there is an image or not, and then we'll get the image.
So the ultimately when the DICOM file goes to DCM4Ch, ideally when that DICOM file went there, there'd be a trigger or a message to OpenMRS saying there's a new result for patient, this patient, and and then OpenMRS could create an OBS that referred to that image on DCM4Ch, so that so it could be shown and search for, decision support tools could know it exists, etc.
True. That's the bigger plan. And one small change is DCM4Ch did not, as far as what we have seen, it did not have any triggers that it will notify. Instead, we thought of polling every regular interval. Just to check whether there is any new information.
This is you're discovering why people, in enterprises, people use interface engines like Mirth. Because as these messages are going, the HL7 standard was created to communicate between these various systems, and it's common that these kind of situations where a message is going to, say, DCM4Ch, and you want to, when a message goes there, you want to send a copy to, say, your OpenMRS instance. So they essentially serve like routers to allow for those kinds of notifications. But polling can get the job done.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So that is what we had for PACS. There's not much to show as a demo for now. So we'll hold on and then we'll show eventually. Okay. So Bharat, I think it's over to you if there is nothing more than this for PACS.
Okay, cool. What I would like to show towards the end of this is about the order fulfillment module that we have developed. Let me just share my screen. So earlier, as you all of you know, we use laboratory information system OpenLS, and then we have OpenMRS, and a lot of lab orders are actually now being served from LS system. But then we used to have these as two separate independent systems, and used to sync the data across them. So the part that a doctor tries to order something like a lab order or a radiology order or a referral order or any kind of order was still manual effort. So they had to write it on a prescription or a paper, and then it has to go through a laboratory, a lab system. So what we had tried to do as part of this exercise of order fulfillment is to support a kind of doctor side. So I'll just take you through that now, and I'll show you how to configure the fulfillment forms and how will this process happen. So, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
I'm on the thing. Oh, cool. So, so this is a sample patient, and then there is this orders, right? So this is as part of the consultation, doctor would do some sort of diagnosis, and if there is any disposition and any notes in the consultation, and then he can go ahead and give an order. So there are various. So this will map to what an order can happen through a list or through prescription, and there are various kinds of orders. So these are our order types in OpenMRS. So there can be various order types that are available, and this kind of configuration is driven through concepts. So we have a standard concept set called all orderables, okay, where we have these top level concept sets like laboratory and radiology order are configured. And for each of it, we have a kind of convention where, you know, the top level again shows the left panel, and these are the actual concepts which are orders. Like these are responsible for the ordering of it, and the classification of it is driven by the concept class, right? Like if I take an example of laboratory, the panels and lab tests are actually the concept classes, and these are various concepts associated to that in this particular hierarchy. So what a doctor can at this point of time do is select a panel or select an individual lab test, right, as part of this particular encounter, and he can go ahead. You can see the list of selected orders, and a doctor can go ahead and click on save. Or if he wants, he can order multiple some of the radiology order as well. Like let's say a chest X-ray or multiple of them, and click on save. So this is how an order is being issued, and this is handled through our encounter transaction EMR API, where the orders are getting saved. And this is all part of one encounter. So any questions till this point?
So ordering something is just as simple as just clicking it?
Yes, you're right. At this point, yes.
Yeah.
And select the test and order it, yes.
And then when you've clicked on one, they show up under the selected orders on the left. Sorry, the screen refresh rate couldn't keep up with your demo.
No, actually, so there's something to do with my local machine here, but ideally you would see it. Okay. So as part of this encounter, like whatever encounter gets saved, like how the user would have filled the data, the same way, you should be able to see I'll press to save. I think it's something to do with the configuration on my machine, but then it would actually come up. Okay, so once the orders are created, so we have a specific order widget that is shown here. So if there are no, so basically somebody has still not acted upon it, so you can still see that those orders are there on the system, right?
What? Wait. Oh, maybe the screen hadn't updated. We were seeing a different screen.
Yep. Okay, I'll just hold on. So this is the patient dashboard.
So you're saying under packs, is that those are the...
No, that's a separate thing.
Oh, over on the right.
Okay. The radiology orders.
Yeah, I see. Over on the right. Okay.
Yeah. So these are the radiology orders, and if there are any lab orders, see, these were the lab orders that were ordered. So as part of this encounter transaction, the data is updated. So now at this point, it still operates in as usual, a usual way of a list consuming these orders and creating the relevant records on the list side, and somebody would actually fulfill that order. But let's say we really don't want to use an LIS in a generic case, and for like a referral order or a radiology order, somebody has to manually do something. Let's say, so for those kind of requirements, we have something called order fulfillment module. I'll just take you through that now. So for radiology, like if an implementer wants, he can configure some sort of forms, okay, using concept sets. Okay, so let me take you through that. So I'm on my application dashboard. Please let me know if you see the latest dashboard. And then there is something called orders here.
Not yet. I think, Bharat, you should go slow. The refresh rate is very slow.
Okay, sure. I'll slow down, yes.
Just as a time check, come to the end of the hour, so people will start dropping off.
Okay, sure. I'll try to wrap it up
on screen.
So go quickly, but go slowly.
Okay, can you see the dashboard screen now?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so there is a new module called orders. So I just clicked on it. On clicking of it, I'll just read out the screen. So it's a queue screen where, so basically these queues are configurable queues. An implementer can actually write a SQL query to configure this kind of queue. And there are places like places in JSON where he has to do some updates. End of the day, he could see something like this, a queue on the screen. If you're with me on the screen, I'm
yes.
sure. Yes. Yeah. Cool. So here, this queue represents that these are the patients for which there is a radiology order pending, and a person who is actually in the radiology order department would follow this queue and try to do an X-ray or whatever. And once he has some results with him, he can go inside, and there is a form that he can fill here, right? And how we create this form is a simple magic. So we have a concept set, that is available, like by the order type followed by a fulfillment form. It's the convention that we are following. So this radiology order fulfillment form, we can configure a concept set using which the form gets created on the UI. I think this part of it most of the people know, so I won't go into the depth of it unless and until it is required. And they can append some images or any other radiology nodes that they would want to, and click on save. So this is kind of the ops that are associated to the orders. Do we have any questions?
So basically, this is sort of the simple simple order result entry workflow for the places where you don't have an external system.
Correct.
That's doing this, and you're basically using your typical form entry tool that also gets used in the observations section and in consultations.
That's right, Darius. Yeah.
And using concept sets instead of, as forms.
That's right. Yes. And all this data, like once this data is updated, it would show up on the dashboard as the ops that are filled against this order.
As an aside, you may also need to be able to say, this order could not be fulfilled for some reason. Stop showing it, or enter the.
So I don't know if it could be captured as part of some comment or something, but yeah. But then we didn't try to do any kind of workflow or some standard stuff. So it's the queue, and how the queue should look like, or whether an order is fulfilled or not, we didn't go in that direction. So because it's too much of at least the definition of fulfilling an order is different in different places and for different order types. So we didn't want to go into the direction of defining that, at least as an initial process. So once we see more and more use cases coming up, might be we can improve on that.
Just an aside, your orders module, you might, if that's just seen by people who are going to be filling in these forms, it might work. But as a provider, I would find something called orders. I would assume that that's how I enter orders.
Oh, okay.
You might want to, if it's going to be seen by different people, you might want to call it an order queue or something. Give it another name that will distinguish it from order entry.
Okay, sure. Cool. Yeah, but so that's taken. The point is taken. So we will do something with that.
Yeah, and usually that's it's something along the lines of task lists, or something like you don't always necessarily have to use the names of things in the data model. Sometimes what the users will expect is, oh, these are the tasks I need to do, or
cool. Yeah, I agree.
So one way to handle that now is based upon the
roles from the permissions, we can actually hide or show the applications. So for the provider, if you don't show this order module, that could be one way that to avoid confusion.
Yeah, just in terms of, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I would echo Burke's statement, though, that I think you guys sometimes have a tendency to use very short one-word names for things that may not be, well, which may not match the prevailing standard or of like whether you should call it order entry or order result entry or something.
Fair enough, yeah.
So I mean, some of these concepts you just can't convey with a single word.
True.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's always better to be more descriptive, given we have space.
But nobody likes to type long names when they're writing code.
That's true.
Fortunately, it's configurable, so.
Yeah, so all these labels are actually configurable. So, and now that internationalization is in place, it's all a JSON file.
Yeah.
So that's what we would like to cover in this particular session.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. Go ahead.
Cool. So I just have one point. So we have a features wiki page. Might be I can just post this on the forum so that if anybody is interested. We have a roadmap as well. Like if you're interested, please go through it. Might be in future sessions we will go through most of them.
Cool. I'll put it in the notes.
Well, thanks for showing the stuff you guys are working on. It's great to see the consistent progress.
You're welcome, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Yeah, one thing that I'm particularly mindful of now is I see you guys doing this great work. I see other groups like Ampath doing Angular-based work, and wondering, is there at a very low level that would be helpful but not prescriptive, a way that the way, say, Ampath is creating Angular apps and the way you guys are creating Angular apps and the way the next group, like PIH or the next group is creating Angular apps, that there would be at least some shared common approach. And I know a lot of this, the building using Bower and just the general structure of Angular apps, there's already some commonality, but I wonder when it comes to, are there either logging in or some basic libraries or some things that all of these groups are having to recreate their own plumbing to get Angular running on top of OpenMRS. So.
Yeah. So as you said, as Angular already gives a very predefined structure of doing things, but I think maybe for the moment we are able to spend time on seeing how they are approaching the problems that they approach. Yes, there is a good possibility of extracting out the components that could be used by anyone who's also deciding the same Angular stack. That's a fair point. I think we should make ourselves some time to see the other implementations as what they're doing with.
Yeah, I mean, even just like what graphing tools you're using, how you're doing localization. There's like, and right now I see very complementary things where Ampath could benefit from those things, whereas they're working on a fairly cool form-based tool using Angular formally, and that there might be something where you guys would benefit from having a more flexible form entry tool. So anyway.
Yeah, I understand. Cool. So the more we collaborate, I think both will benefit.
Yep. Yeah. Well, very cool. Appreciate your taking the time to share.
Okay.
We next week we'll be talking about planning for platform 2. I think I remember. I think I remember that Mayank that week didn't work for him. I'll have to go back and check. So we might be talking.
Yeah, that week.
He has exams, yeah. So we'll probably move that. We will have the some time to talk about the OpenMRS Summit hackathon, and I think it was Kuis Joseph that is going to be leading us in that. So we'll check with him, and hopefully he'll be able to make next week's call. Otherwise, we will do some rearranging over OpenMRS talk over the next week. Well, thank you guys.
During the last hour, Moria had asked to do a quick demo of his PHR work, which could take about 15 minutes or so for a demo.
Okay, so maybe we can get that on.
available.
We can get that on for next week as well. All right. Well, thanks, folks, for joining. Thanks to the Bahmni team for the great work. We appreciate your taking the time to share and give us an update. This is incredibly valuable. I've recorded it on Google Air, so I know there's other folks that will want to see this that may not have been able to join us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you all. Yeah. See you.
We will hopefully see folks on next week's call, and between now and then, we will see you in cyberspace.
Sure.
The org